All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Bill Sawyer. I'm Director of Change Management and Education at High Street ESG. I want to welcome you to today's event. Today's event is the top 10 challenges and solutions responding to the business needs for enterprise software training. I just want to welcome everyone for joining, and today's event is going to allow for an open question and answer session at the end of the event. But I'm also pleased to announce that today, Chris Imhoff and Melanie Gaga have joined me. They're senior members of my team, and they're going to be available in chat throughout the event. So please feel free to ask questions. They can respond as they can, or they may decide that it's a good question that you ask and may decide to keep it and ask it later in the event. Either way, we'll have an open Q&A at the end. So let's get started. Well, let's tell you what we're going to talk. We're going to understand the setting that we have when we talk about enterprise software training. What is that? What are the challenges that we face in that? And we're going to give you some solutions to those, well, what we consider to be the top 10. We're going to wrap it up with a Q&A. It all starts with the big three. In any sort of project, and it's not just an enterprise software training project, but any project whatsoever, time is the big consideration, right? You may have a go live date that cannot be moved, and even if that can be moved and can be flexed, there is a requirement on almost any project that it eventually becomes production, unless, of course, the project completely fails and has to be abandoned. But time is always a consideration, and it wraps into understanding what we talk about when we talk about enterprise software training. I think most of us would agree that time is a critical element, and there's a lot of ways that time is going to come into our equation. Next is money. There's very often a requirement that we have to do a lot with a little. And there are unique ways to go about doing that, and I'm going to share some of those with you today. And I think when we get to the Q&A, we get Melanie and Chris on. They'll also share some of their own experiences. But I think we can all agree that we probably never have as much money as we want, as we need, or sometimes as maybe we think we need. Perhaps we can do more with less. And last but not least, quality. Right? Everyone wants the best quality, but to that old adage, you can have, low cost, done quickly, or high quality. Pick any two of the above. Right? There's oftentimes a conflict between having a high quality learning or training product and being able to do it at a low cost or quickly. And so again, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to make this happen. So here's some data that we gathered over 2012. This is based on our customer surveys. This is direct. This is straight out of our surveys. In the most common situation for the high street customers, this probably describes most of you that are on this call today. I think you will agree that in understanding the setting, that in every one of your enterprise software training projects, you're given as much time as you need to ensure and guarantee a smooth go live. No problems with time. You have as much money as you need because you can get vendors involved and other stakeholders and make sure they have complete learning, and you have full control over the quality of the implementation, the software. I think we would all agree, right, that is exactly the opposite of what we face. And in fact, in almost every one of those scenarios, okay, we can do just the opposite. But the challenge that we face when we're talking about enterprise software training is it's not one of those that joke that you can have any two of the above, time, money, or quality. Because to actually do what you have to do in a training project, you have to do all of these. You have to address them. Now, you might not address them to the level that you think you can or should, but you have to address them. You have to, if you will, stare that demon directly in the eyes and acknowledge its existence, and then say, what are you going to do to tackle that particular problem? Because you cannot ignore any of the above. And in many cases, you can make choices. I'll give you a classic example. In the money situation, there are things that even if you had an unlimited budget to do whatever it is that you wanted to do, you should still focus on the business essentials. You should still focus on return on investment. You should still focus on doing the things that you can do for free or for low cost. Even if you had an unlimited budget, there's no reason to waste money even if you had that. Now, why does this all matter? Why does these training projects and anything else really come to be such an issue that we're all here on this call today to discuss it? Well, it really comes down to making sure that your enterprise software implementation is a success. And if you look, here's several sources of data. From NeoChange, there on the left, what's the most important factor in realizing value? Effective user adoption. Effective user adoption, the critical component of this is training for those end users. What's your greatest concern after an application rollout? From Tech Republic, end user adoption problems, 32%. Okay, a third of people are worrying about it. IDC analysts, 2 out of 3 IT projects are challenged or worse due in large part to user adoption issues. And user adoption issues is just another way of saying training. You haven't trained your end users, you haven't trained your super users, you haven't trained your admins, your developers, all of the key user bases that are involved. So what you really need to address at this point is the question that the employees are asking at Go Live is, how do I do my job using these new applications? And that's not an easy thing to always answer, because it's this world of things, okay? And there's a, we've got some of the ones here. You got lack of budget and resources, travel restrictions. We can't send people to training classes because we can't get them to travel. If you're in a global or a large national organization, you may have communication and workforce issues. I'm located in Florida. We have significant Spanish-speaking populations here for employers that need to be addressed. Fluid workforce due to merger and acquisition, standard knowledge platforms, ROIs. You can see that there's this huge context of all these things that we've got to address. So what are the challenges that we're facing? I'm going to talk about 10 of them. Throw them up there. We'll let you we're going to talk about the challenge of delivery. How are you going to address the training needs of your people, the challenge of the tool, challenge of speed, software, environment, designers, SMEs or subject matter experts, cost, quality, and most importantly, I think, results, business results. We do this because we're ultimately delivering business value. And it starts with understanding that within an implementation or an upgrade project lifecycle, there are a number of phases from inception through production and then afterwards to address support and upgrade. And there are a number of different items within that should be addressed as training concerns, as change management concerns. It's not just job aids. It's not just training classes. You may also want to address the business process documentation that goes along with that. You may even want to address user test scripts, assessment exercises, in-application performance support. You may want to give ways to manage the learning process. You may want to take content, put it into an LMS. You may want to have metrics coming out of this and seeing how many people are doing this. So delivery. Delivery has to be a mix, okay? We no longer exist in the world of just stand-up training, all right? You should always evaluate a project in the delivery of it and say, address it from 2 points of view. What are you going to deliver synchronously, and what are you going to deliver asynchronously? Synchronous delivery is the students are live, it's time-based, they have to log in from this time to this time. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., they're involved in the class. Now, that class could be a classroom, or it could be a webinar. This is a synchronous event today, this webinar. Asynchronous events are the instructor and each individual student can be on the event at any particular time. They get to decide. They get to decide how they want to do it. Some common things, massive online open course or MOOCs. If you've been reading it, you've probably seen that abbreviation, may not know what that is. But these are newer styles where you're actually just allowing huge audiences into this, and those have challenges. You may want to look at like self-study CDs, which is almost a misnomer in these days because most of these self-study CDs aren't even delivered anymore on a CD. They're delivered electronically in download format. There may be web-based portals. Classic examples of that are YouTube. There's a whole, you may have a website that has knowledge, but you need to address all of these things, and this is probably the biggest issue that you need to hear, is people don't experience any significant difference between the delivery of the learning content. Okay, and in fact, if you go to that website that's listed on there, no significant difference. So no significant difference on org, or if you forget that website, just Google no significant difference. Okay, there has been a tremendous amount of research that has been done on this, and all the research points to the fact that the delivery mechanism, whether it's web-based, self-study CD, webinar, LVC, in-class learning, it makes no significant difference between the learning of the student based on the delivery format. Now, most of you are probably raising your hands right now. You're probably doing that proverbial raise your hand and saying, wait a minute, Bill. I've been to really bad online courses, and they're really bad. And how can you say that you don't learn differently on this? I'm not making exceptions for really bad courses. I've sat in really bad courses with instructors. That doesn't mean that that particular example was an example of this. What they're saying is if you do the same instructional design and you make the same instructional expectations out of both of those, that you can expect the same outcome, the learning outcome, to be the same for your students. The easiest way to think about this is, I'm old enough, I'll show my age, to remember when teachers and even college professors wrote on blackboards. We did not make a big deal out of going to whiteboards. Sure, we had color, and we certainly didn't make a difference out of going to electronic whiteboards, right? Interactive whiteboards that could then transmit automatically to the student's laptop or tablet. and record those notes, and they could record in this. We did not make a big deal out of that. And yet, we make a big deal out of thinking that the delivery style makes a difference. No, the instructional design makes a difference. You can have that instructional design in an instructor-led class or in an online class. But assuming that you have good instructional design in both, then you can achieve the same learning objectives and do so easily, and the research supports that. So address delivery. Next, let's talk about tools. I think this is probably the thing that most bothers people. They'll ask me. I get this question from clients all the time. Hey, Bill, what tools should you use? Common tools, at least in my toolkit and in my team's toolkit. You might consider Oracle's User Productivity Kit, or UPK. You might look at Adobe Captivate. You might look at our Articulate Studio or Storyline. I think Storyline is a pretty cool new tool. In some cases, you don't even have the budget for that. I've seen a lot of training materials done in PowerPoint, Word, Snagit, people doing screen captures, writing stuff out to YouTube, just doing straight HTML-based websites for training. My suggestion to you in this is be agnostic to the tool, okay? Tools change. The expectations change over time. Yes, you may have a particular case where you have to use a particular tool. I've heard scenarios where content produced in one tool, let's say UPK, didn't integrate easily with your LMS. Okay, if that's the case, then be willing to throw UPK away and go use Captivate, or go use Storyline, or throw away Storyline and go use UPK. There's no particular reason, again, because the research simply says there's no reason to buy into this. There's no philosophical reason, there's no learning reason that you should buy into any one of these tools. Do I have preferences on tools? Absolutely. And I think everybody does. But as learning professionals, each and every one of us, we need to be willing to put aside our choice of tool. Our choice of tool is our choice as a professional. What we really should be looking at is what is the learning outcome that we can derive from the use of that tool. And if I can help my learner learn, it doesn't matter what tool I do use. Having said all that, there's still some considerations that you want to account for in your selection of a tool. Now, everyone's going to come at this from a different perspective. So you have to look at all of these and figure out how they fit into each of yours. First, cost, speed, quality. How expensive is the tool? How quickly can you produce content? How high quality content can you do this? If you have a lot of existing templates and formats in your let's say Adobe Captivate, and you want to go over to Articulate Storyline, well, you probably don't have those templates and everything else. Is that worth the move? I can't answer that question. You have to look at it for this. You should probably look at the availability of content. Can you purchase content in those particular tool formats? UPK is a good example. Oracle has a lot of content that you can produce, and you can save yourself a significant amount of time for your user base purchasing the content. What about the availability of training? What books are available? What videos? I learn an awful lot on a number of different topics, hobbies, and things like that by going to YouTube and querying up various topics. How much is available? There are tools that I've heard of briefly where people say, well, we're going to use this tool. Well, that's great, but how do you learn? How do you teach people this? If there's not books that you can get on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or you can't go to a training class, then it gets a little bit more interesting. What about the acquisition of assistants? In other words, how can you pull more people into producing content? This is probably one of the most overlooked aspects of this. One of the most useful tips I will tell people if they're looking at revising training materials is go through some of your super users, sit down with them and have them go through their emails. These really good super users and these kind of reference users that everybody go to, they probably have an email folder with all these little tips and tricks where they go through it and they reference that. Well, guess what? If you make some of these learning tools available to these, instead of sitting alone in their email folder, you can start to find ways. Essentially, what you can do is you can Wikify the creation of your content. You might want to look at version control. How does the tool handle that? You might want to look at how it addresses the complete life cycle, because remember we were talking about everything from business process documentation, test scripts, all the way out through support and upgrade for the next one. You should look at select hands versus many hands. How do you address all the various users of this? Is there an ability for them to create content, user-created content, and for it to get into your LMS? Do you want to address that? I don't know. There are good reasons for doing it. There are good reasons for being cautious with it. And then finally, how does all of this integrate with your LMS? If you're using an LMS, you're getting the metrics and reporting on this, but doing that is a difficult thing, then you probably want to change to a tool that integrates a little bit better. And that's why you shouldn't necessarily get a heartburn. All the mainline tools that we talked about back here, UPK, Adobe Captivate, and the Articulate product, they're all really outstanding products that can do more than you think. Speed. I think this is probably the one that I hear the most. It's like these enterprise software products, they change all the time. And guess what? Yeah, they do. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to accept the reality of this. You can have a training course that is rendered useless by the application of a patch. And I wish that wasn't the case, but that is the reality of operating software in this model. So accept that. Then adapt yourself to that. Now that you've said, hey, this changes rapidly, that will start to change your way of responding to training needs. I remember going into batting cages when I was younger, and I would get really good at hitting in the batting cage, and then as soon as I stepped up to the next speed of the pitching machine, I would go right back down to being really awkward and not being able to hit very many. But one of the things that was most interesting was when I needed to slow down, when I went to the slower pitching machine after being on the fast one, suddenly those balls looked incredibly slow, and I had plenty of time to react. And I felt like Babe Ruth. All right, so it was a wonderful thing. If you allow yourself to adapt, if you accept the reality that speed is this, then you know what? Then when you actually get the opportunity to slow down, and you will slow down more often than you think you will, then you will have the skills to actually go quickly on those slower projects. And how do you do that? Well, with two things. You address the absolute necessary components, and that starts with a good analysis. What do your learners need to learn? And be absolutely brutal about removing the fluff. If they don't need to do it, if it doesn't contribute to them learning and remembering the content, being able to apply the message, then be brutal and get rid of it, because it will reduce your speed. You will spend time developing content that you didn't need to, or your students will have to spend time in the classroom hearing content that they don't need. It is not going to be helpful to them. What about the software itself? This is probably the URL that I keep the most handy on my browser, and that's the Oracle's online documentation, docs.oracle.com. Okay, all of their documentation is available in various libraries. From that URL, you can link down to eBusiness Suite, Oracle eBusiness Suite. You can link down into Oracle PeopleSoft, Hyperion, any of their products, and that's what we're talking about today. So they have documentation libraries for each of those. In many cases, you can download those to your desktop. The really nice thing is Oracle is actually producing most of these documents now in PDF, or some even in the various ebook formats. So you can put them on your Kindle, your iPad, favorite reader app for your phone, and you call them up. Now, why is this the case? Oracle spends a huge amount of money on documentation. And you can learn an awful lot about what you need to teach your learners and what they need to learn just by going through the table of contents of any particular doc manual. The doc writers have already accomplished some of that challenge now. That's the menu of things that they can learn. I'm not saying that every single training class is going to cover that entire menu of options. I'm not even saying that every single training class or every single training object, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, is going to even include that in that sequence. But it is there for you to consider. Also, one of the things you want to consider is Oracle has an awful lot of content. They have blogs, they have the Oracle Learning Library, they have the Oracle Support Advisor webcast, they have a YouTube channel, they have two major conferences, Oracle Open World, which is Oracle's own conference, and OAUG Collaborate, in which they actually participate. It's not theirs, but let's actually. One of the things that I will reference you there, if you looked at the presentation, it said to go to esgcme.wordpress.com. This is my existing blog. We're changing over. As most of you know, High Street ESG has become High Street ESG. We're changing names yet again as we roll into High Street IT Solutions LLC, and you see all the notes. There's stuff coming about that. So I haven't updated this site in a while. Just letting you know it's out there. As we change over, we'll be getting a new blog. But on this, I have a number of articles that talk about, well, so you want to know about Oracle documentation that we just talked about on the previous slide. There's some links to the eBusiness Suite documentation library, the PeopleSoft documentation library as well. You can go to the general. If you want to look at blogs, there's an awful lot. Well, you can go to blogs.oracle.com. But what's a good starting point? Well, here's some general blogs that you want to be paying attention to. If you're in the eBusiness Suite arena, here's those. PeopleSoft, change management, maybe some other interesting blogs depending on what you're doing. Here's an example of a training repository for eBusiness Suite technical stuff. Really good repository out there. If you're on the web, if you want the web, Oracle Support Advisor webcast, absolutely excellent resource. They have a whole webinar series. So go to My Oracle Support, look up support note 553.747.1. You can look there. or 603.505.1. Go ahead and check those out. Those will have the schedule. Those will have the absolute latest schedule, and all of those webcasts from Oracle are free. Also, you can see ESG made some presentations at Collaborate 2013. So if you want to take a look at those, you can do this. And then we said Oracle has a YouTube channel. So I have links to the PeopleSoft, the Oracle PeopleSoft, the Oracle eBusiness Suite, and the just general Oracle YouTube channel. I will give you one other if you go to oracle.com, go to OLL. This is something that didn't make it into my presentation. I'll make sure it gets updated in this. But this is the Oracle Learning Library. If you had any experience in the past with Oracle by example, there was some amazing content where Oracle would show you how to install, how to do some basic functionality of all the various tools. Well, that changed names from Oracle by example to now being called Oracle Learning Library. And this is a collection of all the Oracle products. You can, as you scroll through this, you can see they cover Fusion apps, they cover Hyperion, JD Edwards. Once you scroll through this long enough, there's PeopleSoft, and eBusiness Suite will be out here somewhere. I probably passed it. But I can tell you that there is eBusiness Suite data out there, and there's a lot of really good content out here at the Oracle Learning Library. If for some reason you can't remember that URL, or just Google Oracle Learning Library, and it will get you to the page. All right, and that's, give you just a second, that's esgcme.wordpress.com is where the ESG blog is located. Next, in environment. How do you provide the correct environment for people to learn? And the best analogy that I can think of is provide them with a playground. Okay, so make it open. I have seen a number of projects, and most of those projects that have done this that have either had severe stresses to the project or have even failed. And that is when they treat the project, this enterprise implementation, as if it's top secret, if it's the Manhattan Project, as if suddenly only a certain select number of people are allowed to know about something. If I can make any suggestion around this, open that environment. Tell everyone. If they come to you and they want to learn, let them. So don't just make this accessible to the implementation team, make it accessible to everyone. Make it fun. Have little things that people can go in over time as you're doing an implementation. Have them do some things that they can go in and see it. Make it accessible. Make sure you address all of your user communities. You might have language issues. You might even have accessibility issues, people with disabilities that you need to do. Make it known. You've got portals in your companies, or you have URL distribution lists, or you have monthly newsletters or weekly newsletters. Publicize this. Let people know. Provide it early. Don't wait until the 2 weeks before go live and suddenly open up the playground and say, oh, now here you can do this. No. Let people do this, because you will also find that sometimes in playing, you will uncover things that if you had waited till 2 weeks before implementation would be much more difficult to solve. The more eyes you have looking at something, the more likely you are to actually uncover this. Now, everybody says, well, wait a minute, what if I have all these people? The reality is that when you open this up, when you don't make it a secret, most people come in, they check it out, but they have jobs to do. And they don't go and do this. You're only going to get your hardcore super users that are really going to go in and bang against this thing. They're going to test it. Okay, they're going to see what they can do. But those hardcore super users are generally your thought leaders. They're going to be influencing everyone else. So you're not going to use as many resources as you think you're going to do, and the payback that you get from these people being involved is going to be well worth any small conscious pay. And then just like any good playground, keep it clean and well maintained. You want to go in there every now and then and refresh that playground. Okay? You want to keep it around for a long time. You want it to be something, don't just think about it as something that goes all the way up to go live, and then as soon as go live goes away, because if you provide a playground, then that also means that if people don't understand something really well about their job, that they have a stress-free environment that they can go over and they can play. Designers. So your instructional designers, how do they do this? Well, there are two. I think probably everyone from an instructional design has heard of ADDIE: analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. Okay? I like you to think about this differently. I like you to think about the project runway model, because we said that one of the challenges that we had was speed, and we said you had to accept reality. If you've ever seen a show like Project Runway, and my wife likes the show, and I've seen it a couple times. The wonderful thing about that show is you get incredibly talented, in this case, fashion designers, and they give them a very small budget and a very small budget of time. They absolutely constrict the time that these people have to produce something absolutely amazing. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. The challenge with ADDIE is ADDIE's this just rotund development model that just doesn't work in this fast-paced enterprise system training model that we have to do. It doesn't work. It's too massive. You have to think differently. So you have to restrict yourself. Keep yourself into time schedules. Keep yourself into absolutely strict budgets, and then allow the creativity of your instructional designers to say, okay, this is the reality. I have to design a dress with duct tape, or I have to design a men's business suit with black garbage bags. Okay, and I have to do it in a day and a half. That's reality. All right. So the designers then have to accept that reality, and then you see some just absolutely amazing constructs. Now, I have seen that same reality work in the instructional design model, is that when you challenge the creative people that these instructional designers are, this will come out. Okay? So challenge them. In the same way that you're challenging your instructional designers, you should also challenge your subject matter experts. Okay? Subject matter experts then no longer become optional, all right? And most important, they're no longer just ask repositories. They're not the people that when you ask them, I don't know this, I'm going to go over and ask the SMEs. You have to involve them. In other words, you have to make them junior designers. They're going to lack the professional expertise, but you need to give them the professional expertise. And make them join you as junior designers in the same way that you need to take your designers and make them junior SMEs. Okay? There cannot be this clear distinction of lines between the two. They've got to blur. And you have to treat your interactions with them as more than just single events. I'm on the phone today with my SME. I continue my work up through Friday, and I reach another point, and I do this. This solutions demand a collaborative effort between everybody involved in the project, and it has to be an ongoing effort. The implementers, the developers, they don't do that. They don't just say, today I'm going to do something to implement General Ledger today. and then they just do that for a couple hours and then leave. No, it's a continuous process of involvement all over, and your SMEs and your instructional designers and all the other people involved in your training process need to be collaboratively involved on. Cost. Be brutal. Okay? Focus on return on investment, ROI. All right? You should be able to answer the question, why am I training, how much am I training, and what value am I getting back for that training? If you can't answer that question, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. You probably shouldn't be doing it in the way that you're doing it. Okay? If you force yourself to be brutal and to make hard business decisions, you will make better business decisions. Learning. There's the objective. The objective is not to stare at the rock. The objective is to get to the top of the rock. Okay? The objective is to be up there. And once you are up there, the objective is to stay up there. Okay? That is the whole point. Or is it the point of just being able to come and see what's out there? And so it really comes down to that bottom line. Okay? The bottom line is, what profit are you making for the company in doing this? Okay? If you're doing this right, if you're doing this and you're focusing on the right things, you're absolutely going to be producing profit, and you're going to be producing profit at the right level. Honestly, as professionals, I can say this is going to keep you involved. It's far too common when projects get stressed that they cut training budgets. It's far too often when the economy gets stressed that they cut training budgets. Okay? If you can be brutal and you can show the results, you can show the profit, then what happens is it doesn't get cut because it does produce profit. So it's a significant value to the organization. All right. Let me go ahead and open up Chris's and Melanie's line. So they're online now. We'll open up the lines for everybody else. Hold on just a second. Let's see. I think I can open up everybody else's line and unmute. All right. Everybody else's lines should be unmuted as well. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. You can also, if for some reason you're shy, you can ask the question in chat. We're paying attention there. So any questions on the line? Quiet. Melanie, Chris, any feedback?
Actually, you guys don't worry about not having a question right off the bat or that silence right there. It's okay. But I do actually have something that I've kind of been sort of keeping in my back pocket, is something I wanted to talk about if somebody didn't ask a Q&A question there, based on the content that Bill just went over. By the way, this is Chris Imhoff. Hi. We've been talking, Bill spent some time talking about SMEs and how they are a really critical resource to a lot of projects. I've been working in the change management and education area for quite a long time now, and I've seen the evolution of the SME role over a lot of different projects. Initially, you know, we'd have SMEs that were on projects, and they were just the people that you would ask the questions to. They had their own jobs that they were still doing, and they really didn't have a lot of time to be involved in the project, but they were the go-to person, power users, et cetera, the process owners that you went and asked the questions of. And Bill's goal, when he's talking about the challenges and solutions that we've got, Bill's goal when we're talking about SMEs is to actually have them integrated into the project in terms of the instructional design and the delivery of that. You've always kind of had those subject matter experts in the project working with the functional people, making sure that the ERP system that you're implementing lines up with the expectations of the organization. But that also comes into play with the training as well, and the education and communication. The best projects that I've been a part of have been actually relatively recent as this role has evolved, where the subject matter expert teams up with the designer, the instructional designer, and creates the course in tandem. Sometimes this involves, you know, like Bill said, there might be an email resource or some little stack of notes that subject matter experts have been collecting over the years. And so basically you're taking that and translating it into a course. Other times you've got subject matter experts who are pretty well versed in some of the tools that we've talked about, PowerPoint or Word, and they can actually create some of that content and then together with the instructional designer put it together. I've actually been on projects where we've had kind of a team approach to those classes. The instructional designer and the subject matter expert team up not just to create the class, but to teach the class. So I've had team teaching environments where it's the subject matter expert and the trainer together, you know, passing the ball back and forth in front of the class, teaching the topics. I've also seen it where we've had an instructor, a trainer up in the front of the class and the subject matter expert in the back as the go-to person to help out in situations like that. All of that comes down to how can you manage that subject matter expert and their time on the project. And as Bill mentioned, you really have to make it a key part of the project that subject matter expert be available and be a part of that project. You have to actually emphasize the importance of that role. And that kind of goes towards how you're building the project, how you're representing the project to your organization, and also what kind of stakeholder sponsorship and promotion you have of the project. If the leadership of the organization makes it important for that subject matter expert to be available and takes into account the recommendations of the project team, then that's going to happen. So that right there is actually one of the most important things from my experience that I've seen, the involvement of the subject matter expert in the development and delivery of the training. I kind of went off and rambled there for a little bit. I was just trying to get people to ask questions. I'm sorry about that. Bill, you still there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was speaking with my own line muted. Anne appears online. She appears to have a question. Anne, you want to go ahead? I don't know if she's on the voice conference, but she did raise her issue, and then okay, all right. All right. Thanks, Chris. Melanie, did you have any thoughts?
No, I didn't really have anything to add.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Unfortunately, we'll give Anne trying to raise her hand again. Let's see, Anne, can you hear? Can you respond? All right. Well, everyone seems to be quiet, so what I'll do is go ahead and put up last message here. You can check your chat window. I'm going to put up my contact information for me. It's bsawyer@highstreetesg.com. We're going to be changing emails here real soon over the weekend. In fact, so it'll be bill.sawyer@highstreetit.com. So you can reach me at either one of those email addresses. If for some reason we didn't get to address your question today, please do so. Within a day or two, the replay of this event will be up. Also, when we do this, we'll have the PDF of this presentation file. If for some reason you'd like the PDF presentation early, just go ahead and send me an email, and I'll make sure I get it out to you. But it will be available in the link in a day or two. And with that, if I'll give one last go-round to anybody on the phone that has any questions. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today, and I'll look forward to getting this posted, and we'll get everybody else out, and we'll look forward to seeing you at a next webcast. Thank you very much.